Hey guys, it's Kat and I'm back today for a foundation wear test. I haven't done one of these in quite some time, but I've been meaning to do it for this guy here. It is the Too Faced Peach Perfect Comfort Matte Foundation infused with peach and sweet fig cream. So this is from Too Faced and it came out in the peaches and cream range along with this powder. This powder is the Peach Perfect Mattifying Loose Setting Powder infused with peach and sweet fig cream. So I was lucky enough to be sent these from a really gorgeous subscriber, so thank you very much, Shannon. These aren't available in Australia, but they're slowly rolling out to other countries. This whole range came out in the US, I want to say maybe a year ago now, and I think they kept it quite like US, Canada exclusive for quite some time, but this year they're slowly rolling it out throughout Europe. It's just being released in the UK, so hopefully it will be released in Australia very soon. Now, I have tried these products before, but I thought I want to show you on camera how it applies, how it looks, how it feels, and then let you know what I think about the products. Okay, let's talk about the foundation first. It contains 48 mils of product and it's got a pump packaging. It's very, very handy. I like the packaging. It claims to be oil-free, 14-hour wear, oil controlling, and photo-friendly. So that's sort of the claims on it. It comes in a variety of shades. This one that I've got is nude. It's a little bit too dark for me, probably in the cooler months, but I'm wearing it on its own today. It's fine if I sort of bronze my neck a little bit. So I have heard some people say that their shades oxidize. I haven't experienced that personally with this shade. Oxidization, it happens, like some shades oxidize more than others, some climates oxidize more than others, some skin oxidize more than others. So I haven't yet experienced it with this, but if you are concerned about that, maybe test it out in store first if you can. Otherwise, maybe stick to, if you're tossing up between two shades, go the lighter one, because you can always bronze it up to make it a bit deeper, and if it does oxidize, it will oxidize to your shade, but mine is nude. Now, I love the fact that this has, 48 mils of product. Most foundations contain 30 mils, so you're getting a lot of product in here. So same goes for this powder. It is a translucent product, so it comes in one shade and it contains 35 grams of product, which is massive. Huge, huge, huge. Now, this packaging looks really awesome, but I'll show you something I really don't like about it when I'm putting the foundation on and the powder on, but you'll see it then. But yeah, one thing that I need to mention about these products is they do have a heavy fragrance. They are infused with peach and sweet fig cream, so they do smell very, very sweet. This one smells more figgy. This one just smells really sweet, and you can also taste it a bit. So if you don't like fragrances, don't buy these. But if you like products that are designed to set makeup or mattify the skin and not and sort of control oils, these are interesting ones. All right, so let's get on to me applying them so you can sort of see how I apply it and what I think about it as I go. I have used these products before, so it's not a first impressions, but it's just, yeah, talking you through the process. All right, so it is around just before 11:30, so by the time I sort of get this on my face, we'll start the wear test at about 11:30. And the only thing that I've put on my face is a moisturizer that has like high sun protection in it, so I don't have any primer. I personally don't love primer, and I find that it's generally not worth the extra step. So it's about 13 degrees Celsius in Melbourne at the moment, so this is not like, it's not a hot day. I'm not going to sweat it off. I will try to go for a walk or do something, get the foundation out in the elements and whatnot, maybe in the rain, knowing this weather. And if you aren't familiar with my skin, I do have quite oily skin. So I've got quite oily T-zone, and then just the cheeks and the like surrounding areas are normal. So that's sort of the background to my skin. And what I look for in a foundation is something that wears a long time, that doesn't break down with my oiliness, and generally some decent coverage, because I do have like patches of redness on my cheeks. I've got some breakouts from hormonal times, so I like things to cover the majority of that but still look quite not natural but not cakey. and yeah, I just don't like it to break down. All right, the shade that I've got is Nude, and this is a little bit dark for me. So this shade Nude is like a good sort of summer, spring shade for me, but going into the cooler months like we are now, this is a little bit too dark, but I'm going to use it anyway because I still can use it, and I feel like if I tried to lighten it at all, it would change the formula slightly, and I want to go pure just with this. Now with this foundation, it's quite a thick foundation and it definitely has a scent. It's got a strong fig sort of peach scent, so if you don't like fragrances, you probably won't like this. It also feels almost a little bit balmy. So the way I'm just going to apply this is just dot it on with my fingers and then finish it off with a sponge. I find that sort of works the best because this does have like a balm skincare sort of consistency, which I haven't ever tried anything like it. Like, it looks like a normal foundation as I'm applying it, but it is, when I first tried it, I thought, oh, this is going to be very, very dewy because it just gives that sort of skincare, thick lotion sort of feel. So I've just got a damp sponge. And I find that as you sort of work it in, it does set and it does turn more of its matte finish. So it's a really, really strange one. You can see that it definitely has covered a lot of that redness. It's covered that blemish so far pretty well. I also really like this pump because you can pump out the smallest amount. That's like 1/5 of the pump or something. And I'm just going to see if I can cover some of these breakout areas a little bit better. Just some of the areas that have a little bit more redness peeking through. All right, so hopefully you can tell that that did build a little bit, not heaps though. So it's not completely full coverage. It's definitely more of a solid medium coverage, but I really like this amount of coverage. You can see a little bit of color coming through, so it still looks like natural skin, and you see that it's got, oh, ignore my wet hair, you can see that it's got like a glow to it because it's got that sort of more dewier skincare feeling consistency, but it does end up setting, and if you want it to set down completely matte, that's when you powder it. So I really like this. I think it looks really healthy. It looks like if I just did a bit of brows and a bit of eyes, mascara, lip gloss, this looks like I'm having a good, like, sort of not no makeup day. I'm clearly wearing foundation, but it doesn't stand out as being cakey, full coverage, matte foundation. It looks really, really nice. So if you had drier skin, even though this is a matte foundation, you can probably leave it at this stage where you can see that it is touch dry and it has set, but it's got a little bit of dewiness to it, which I kind of like. So when you first apply this and you do feel like it's kind of sticky and it sort of moves like a thick sort of moisturizer, you sort of go, this is really weird and it might not work on my skin, but it does end up looking really good. And I find the best way to put it on, I find, is with your fingers, because the sponge can absorb a lot, and then just blend it out with a sponge so you get that nice even finish. I find brush is a little bit of hard work because it is quite thick and you can get streaks, and you can use your fingers, but it is very just messy and tacky. Okay, even though I should go in with concealer now, I do want to demonstrate on camera this powder. So I really like this powder as well. This is the Mattifying Loose Setting Powder. You get a mass amount of product in this. It's 35 grams. It's good. The thing I don't love about it, so the lid and the packaging is really, really nice, and it's good for traveling because it's got this sort of like lid in there. So you have to lift the lid and you can smell the sweetness and you can smell the fragrance. So I even just got a little bit in my mouth that I can taste the sweetness. So these are definitely fragranced products. They're not like, if you don't like fragrance, you're not gonna like these. But the thing that's a little bit annoying about that lid, like, it's great because you don't waste product and it's not super messy, but to get the product then on your brush from this sort of stage, it's a little bit annoying. You can't just close the lid and shake it and get a little bit out. So all I do is pop a little bit into the lid like that. Then I close it, and I know that if it knocks off my bench, it's not really gonna like make a mess. And then just with a brush, this one's a pretty fancy brush, ignore my bouginess. Oh yeah, I can taste it. Oh, like I don't hate it, I like sweet things, but you can taste that it's very sweet. So I'm just sort of setting my T-zone. I'm avoiding my under eye area because I do want to go in with concealer later. But you can see that this straight away takes down that shine and sets it, and it's a super, super finely milled, really nice powder. So yeah, if you can get over the fragrance and the fact that it tastes sweet, this just feels so soft and smooth. It sort of blurs your pores a little bit. So it's like what pores? I can barely see. I can see like creases under here because I haven't done anything there, but my skin looks and feels so smooth. So this powder, just use a small amount and it sets it and forgets it. All right, there's a bit of a zoom in and my skin looks flawless. It looks really, really nice. Nose, it looks nice. This is where my breakout is, so you can see that it's covered quite a lot of it. Pores look really good. Really, really, really good. So this combination actually works out really well. All right, I'm gonna go do the rest of my makeup and I'll come back and let you know how everything's sitting on top of it. Okay, so I'm back. I've done like my 15-minute makeup, so just Project Pan products, my 1 month 1 palette, eyeshadow palette. So this is my sort of quick makeup. I've also done my nails, as you can see. So I'm back to tell you how the foundation and powder feel with makeup over the top. Feels really good. It feels really light. I do have to say that I could smell the scent of it while I was doing my makeup, so the scent does linger. So it's definitely a heavily fragranced foundation. I can't smell it now, it's fine, but definitely sort of, yeah, after I'd put it on, it lingered for a good like 5 minutes. My skin feels super, super smooth, and I know it's sort of half because the powder is very, very finely milled and soft and just like blurs the pores, and it just feels really nice. It sets it really nicely, not too dry, not too matte, but definitely sets it really nicely. I also put concealer, I put Tarte Shape Tape under my eyes, and I set that with that powder as well, and it just worked really well. So the powder's great, but I also think that this foundation sets really nicely, so it feels really kind of, it doesn't feel too cakey on the skin, and it just clings to the skin quite well. And here's just a zoom in of the skin, so you can see that it looks super smooth. So look at that, super, super smooth. You can definitely see a little bit of skin texture peeking out, but it just looks really natural, feels really comfortable, it feels really set. It's not at all transfery, which is great. You can still see like a bit of color. You can see the breakout is mainly covered, but is peeking out a little bit, but it still looks really natural and healthy. Same as on the forehead, you can see the breakout a little bit, but it just looks smooth and like I've got really great skin, which I don't. All right, so I will check back in a couple hours time and keep wearing this until I want to take it off, and I'll let you know how it wears on my skin. All right, so it's check-in time. This will probably be my middle check-in. I might do one a bit later on as well. What's the time? Hey Google, what's the time?
It's 5:52.
It's 5:52. 5:52. So this makeup has been on for over 6 hours, and it is looking pretty much as good as it did when I first put it on. I might get a little bit of redness that's peeking out around the nose. My hair is still wet from this morning. Can you believe it? My hair just never dries. A little bit of redness peeking through it, but everything is looking really good. It's sort of become a little bit dewier, so it's settled in a little bit with the oils, but it's very, very well oil controlled. And it's looking really good. And I have gone out for a walk. It was raining a little bit, went out for a coffee, went to Bunnings, did a bunch of stuff today, and it's not just like I've been sitting in like a pristine little box where there's no elements that are hitting my face. It's doing really well. So let's zoom in. All right, so you can see around the nose, even though it looks a little bit, it looks like it's a little bit chunky, but it hasn't broken down and separated. So for me, that is like remarkable. It is, the foundation is still there. Usually foundation around my nose has completely broken down, but that's just a little bit oily. You can see that it's looking fine on my forehead. You can get a little bit of peeking through, but otherwise it's looking great. On my chin, you can see there's a little bit of oil breakthrough, just a tiny bit, which is starting to break, or you can see the color coming through a little bit, but otherwise it's looking really good. I also want to say that this has not oxidized on me throughout the day. Sort of the color that it was pretty much still is. The lighting is definitely different because it's now pitch black, but you can still see that the color difference from my face and my neck are pretty much the same. I did bronze my neck a tiny bit, but you know, it's still looking quite good. If it has oxidized or changed color at all, it's only a fraction. But this feels really good. It's not breaking down. I have not touched up at all, and it looks great. I can just see some oil sort of coming through on my forehead now, but at 6 hour mark, this is completely fantastic. I do want to say though that I have tried this with like a long wearing setting spray, and even though it does lock it in, I find that it sets it too much. And what happens is, if you have any glasses marks, and I did wear sunglasses today as well, and there's no real glasses marks, but if it does, if you do need to touch up anything, like if something has rubbed off, I find that it is really, really hard to touch up, because if you go to touch up the foundation, it sort of pulls away the set foundation. So what I might do at my last check-in is try to touch this up and see how it goes when you do that, because since this is not, it's very, very, like it feels super set. There's no tackiness, there's no nothing. And I find that if you sort of disrupt that, it doesn't like it. So if you go to touch up a spot, it sort of doesn't work. The new foundation doesn't work well with the foundation underneath. So when I check in next, we will test that out a little bit. But I find that problem is more noticeable when you set it with a setting spray. Whereas if you just use the foundation with a powder like I did today, it's a lot better. All right, so last check-in, and it's officially 10:41 p.m. So I've had this makeup on for over 11 hours, and I would love to wear this until like the 14-hour claim, but I just put it on way too late. So this is the last check-in. Okay, so I want to say that this looks really good. Okay, there's definitely, hang on, I'll turn this brightness down. You can see there's definitely a bit of shine in the forehead, but this is really good for like 11 hours wear. Like we saw last time at the check-in that it was sort of getting a little bit oily here and breaking down, but it's still sort of staying together. It's not breaking down completely and rubbing off. It's just a little bit like of skin poking through. Same as here where it's starting to get a bit oily. You can see my breakouts just starting to poke through, but not too bad. The oiliness looks like worse under the lights, but in reality, it just looks like a healthy sort of glow. So I would be more than happy to either just continue wearing this. If this was like, if I put my makeup on at 7 a.m. and this is what it looked like at 6 or 7 p.m, I would be more than happy to wear this out to dinner and keep going, or just touch up and powder and continue going. So I'm going to zoom in so you can see what it looks like, but nothing has broken down. It's looking very impressive. All right, so we can see once again a little bit more oiliness peeking through here, little bit of oiliness coming through there, but not too much. Look, it's really not that bad. Chin is sort of similar to last time. You've got color peeking through, but it's not breaking down and completely wearing off. It's looking where my normal skin is. It's solid, completely fine, no problems. Just oily T-zone. It's starting to get a little bit oily, but it's still really good. So one thing I did mention last check-in was that I have had issues before sort of touching up this foundation, especially when it's in combination with a setting spray. I find that it just becomes so set that when you go to touch it up, it sort of starts pulling apart a bit. It's weird. It starts lifting, I guess. So yeah, it starts lifting. It reminds me of like nail polish. When your nail polish starts chipping, it starts lifting and it just comes off. It kind of does a similar thing, but in a foundation way. whatever, weird, it's late, I'm talking bullshit. But I thought what I'll do is, before I conclude it, I'm going to see how this touches up just with a little bit more foundation on that same sponge I used. And we'll see if you can touch it up at the 11-hour mark. Now this might be easier to touch up because there's a bit of oil coming through, which means that the foundation and the old foundation might meld together a little bit better, but we'll see. And I have to say again, I love this pump because you can pump out the smallest amount without like it being difficult to do. It's just a really smart pump. Okay, let's say that we wanted to touch up our T-zone a bit, maybe the chin. Let's just see if this touches up well. All right, so I am noticing that it's not touching up great. I don't know if you can see, but the more I sort of put on, the more it pulls up the existing foundation. So you try to just, yeah, it just doesn't build on set foundation. So it's not looking too bad, but you can sort of see where it's starting to gather and push. And the more I'm sort of putting on, the more it's sort of pulling away and looking a little bit funny. So this isn't too bad. I've experienced it a lot worse in the past, but you can see that that is no longer sitting really smoothly. I might turn this brightness down again. I don't know if you can see, but this is not sitting as smoothly as it was before. It's sort of now starting to look a little bit gathered and patchy. So yeah, this foundation, once you've sort of set it and it's sort of dried down and you set it with powder, you can't, like you can touch up. Like if from afar, this won't be a problem, but if you wanted it to look as good as before, you can't touch up already set area. So that's probably the one limitation that I've come across with this foundation, is that it just doesn't like to be touched up. But what I just demonstrated is a very, very minor problem. Like firstly, with the foundation after 11 hours, I wouldn't even bother touching it up. I might blot it and powder it, but I wouldn't even, I would nearly hit myself with this. I wouldn't even bother going in with this because it still looked really good. The only problem that I've had before, like I said, broken record, but when I use a setting spray that sets it really, really well, that's when I have more issues with it really pulling away as you try to touch it up. And I remember there was one time I had sunglasses marks and I was wearing this with a setting spray and I went to go touch it up with concealer, and wherever I touched up, it would just pull away more and more and more. And it got to the point where I had to take off all my foundation on my face and redo it. So I find that this probably works best on its own. No setting spray, probably no mattifying primer. Just let it do its own thing. Probably the best thing to put on top of it, if you wanted to, is like a hydrating mist. But other than that, this is best on its own and best not retouched. Put it on, set it and forget it. And then if you need to touch it up, just powder it or blot it. But yeah, great foundation otherwise. Also great powder, and I think together they're even better. I think it's such a good range. I'm waiting for this to come to Australia because I really want to pick up a winter shade of this. And the amount of product you get in this powder and even this foundation, like it's over like an extra 50% that you'd normally get with other foundations. And this is 35 grams of powder. I just think that these are so good. I would be happily just using these on a daily basis if they were more easily accessible in Australia. So hopefully they'll be coming soon so I can get a winter shade and I can get backups of this because it's fucking fab powder. And it's also a really good powder for setting concealer, because I find that a lot of powders that aren't so finely milled, they make my under eye area look really creasy, but this powder doesn't do it. This powder sets your face and also sets your under eyes very, very nicely. So huge tick of approval for me. I've tried this in warmer weather. It does hold up well, not as well as it did today because it's quite cold today, but they're very, very nice products. So if you've got a chance to check them out and you've got oily skin or oily combination skin, or you just like matte products, check either one or both out because they're really, really good. Anyway, that's my review, and I'm kind of upset that I need to take off this makeup because it still looks really good and I'm really impressed, but I want to have a shower and I kind of want to get into my pajamas. So I'll end it there, but hopefully you found that interesting. If you tried this, let me know what you think. And yeah, it is what it is. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye.